So my condition is very rare, 1 out of 250,000.
The medical side is one thing, but what about the mental side of things? You're a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, and suddenly you were impacted.
My eyes started caving in, and that was like the onset of my condition. It was the beginning of a struggle, of a journey from one doctor to the other. The pain, I remember the tears, I remember the confusion. They couldn't do anything for me.
Hello friends, and welcome back to another episode of Unscripted, where we have raw, unfiltered conversations with some incredible guests. And oh my God, was today's guest inspiring? Was today's guest amazing? I have taken away so much from today's episode, I'm not going to lie. It's been a wonderful episode. This individual has truly taken pain and changed it into purpose for her entire life. Today's guest is Gillian. Gillian was born in Botswana, in Africa, born with a condition that she was not even diagnosed with until 3 years ago. But she lived her entire life turning pain into purpose and succeeding in every aspect of her life, in school, in college, and then going in to be a global director in a company in finance. An episode not to miss. Here is Unscripted with Gillian. Thank you so much, Gillian, for joining me on Unscripted today, where we have raw, unfiltered conversations about our lived experiences. For our listeners and viewers, please tell me a little bit about yourself.
It's lovely to be here, and I feel privileged to be taking part in your podcast. I've watched it for some time since it started, and
thank you.
I totally appreciate the work you're doing for our community and for everybody that feels unseen, and for everybody that might be standing at a point where they are facing a challenge. So I'm Gillian. I was born in Botswana in Africa, and I went to school in Africa, and at the age of 12, I developed perirhombic syndrome. So my condition is very rare. You have a case of 1 out of 250,000. And while in Botswana, it meant that I had no diagnosis. I had nobody to tell me what was going on. And it was the beginning of a struggle, of a journey from one doctor to the other. But by the grace of God, I completed my school. I went to uni. With all the challenges that were there, I thrived. I prevailed.
Wow. So you were diagnosed at what age, did you say?
Oh, I got diagnosed 2 years ago.
Oh, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But as you were young, when did you...
Okay, so at the age of 12, this is what happened. I went to rural Africa, like at the rural side of Botswana, to visit my grandparents. And then I developed a ringworm. Just a slight ringworm, and then I went to the doctor, it got treated, and then it kind of disappeared for a few days, and then when it came back aggressive. And then from that point, that was the beginning of everything. So the ringworm was right under my left eye, and then it started growing, and then from the ringworm, my eyes started caving in, and that was like the onset of my condition. And then obviously my parents realized there was something wrong. From the onset of having a ringworm to all the muscles atrophying to the left, to losing the teeth, the hair. It was a struggle that began when I was 12, and it progressed as the years went by. And unfortunately, I didn't have anybody to just say, this is your condition, this is how you could be helped, because obviously it's rare. And I was growing up in a country where the medical system is not very advanced. Yeah.
So you were 12 years old, and suddenly these changes were happening on your face, which no one really knew what was happening. So what was going through your family's mind at that time? What are your memories of how everyone was sort of dealing with it?
It was a whirlwind of emotions. It was a whirlwind of emotions because every parent wants to provide solutions for their child. And in this case, my parents had no solution for me. And I saw my father losing most of his wealth. selling most of his assets to fund private medical care. I saw my mother going from being healthy to having high blood pressure. I saw my siblings. I come from a vibrant family of 6. I have 5 siblings, and both of my parents are still together. So I saw all my 5 siblings in confusion, and I saw a place where they were helpless. They couldn't do anything for me. So it was a very stressful time for the family. For the first 5 years, that was a whirlwind of emotions.
Wow. How are you feeling through all of this? I remember when I was young and I was going through school and friendship, it was extremely difficult navigating it because people would stare, people would point. What was going through your mind? Going to school, trying to be a young child, growing up, enjoying life?
It was a time of confusion at the most because I was struggling to get answers for myself. And at the same time, I was trying to provide answers to people that were asking questions. So for me, I was in Form 1. I don't know what Form 1 is in the UK. So I was in Form 1. I was 12 years old, and I'm an academic. I love school. I would be the most intelligent girl in the school. I would be known by everyone.
Yeah.
So before my condition, I still had a name. So me having a name meant everybody wants to know and be associated with the best student in the school.
Yeah.
And then it means that any slight change within my body, the whole school will see it. And I was serving in the Student Representative Council.
Yeah.
I remember I was the Minister of Academics, so I was tasked with making sure that students do their best. So it meant that there was not even a chance for me to hide. So in the midst of my confusion, I had to provide answers to people. And in the midst of my pain, and this is like the onset of adolescence, where people are discovering themselves. People are, a person is just transitioning from childhood to adulthood. So it was a very big challenge for me. So I remember the pain. I remember the tears. I remember the confusion. I remember it also wasn't an easy time at all.
Just tell me a little bit more about it. So
the biggest challenge that I had, firstly, I remember when my eyes started being so red and having my vision a bit diminished. The first challenge that I had, my grades dropped. From being the best student, I was the second best now. And I remember even the challenge I had with teachers, the challenge that I had with teachers that were not kind, teachers that would come across as, your grades are dropping, you better get medical help or you see what to do.
See, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
The teachers were not helpful and your grades were dropping, and immediately they were like, you need to go and get medical help. And why I say that is really interesting is because with neurofibromatosis, with my condition as well, I've had over 25 surgeries in my life. Every time, the medical side is one thing, but what about the mental side of things? What about what's going through our head? You're a 12-year-old, 13-year-old who was doing really well in education, who was getting on with life, who was making the most of being a child, and suddenly you were impacted by this change, which you didn't know an answer for. And the teacher's responses was, well, go and sort it out. Do you know what I mean? And I think in modern day as well, and in workplace and everything, it's that empathy piece that is really important. We all go through challenges, whatever that might be, but it's really, really important for leaders, teachers, managers, bosses to actually ask, how are we feeling? Not about, I go to hospital, I get checkups, I have a new eye made every 6 months. That's a challenge. But there's a mental health side of things as well around this, which is often ignored, and especially in countries like India, places in Africa, Bangladesh, Pakistan, they don't understand the empathy. When I land in India, it's like they've seen an alien. I mean, as soon as I land in India, I realize I'm disabled. I realize there's something visibly wrong with me because everyone's just staring at me, like literally, like they take their phone out and start taking pictures of me. That's how bad it is. So you spoke to me about getting to that point where you started realizing that the structure of your face was changing. What were your hobbies? What were your interests? What did Gillian enjoy doing as a child?
So I was never into sports, but my best activity was the debate team. Because I could reason and had a beautiful way of presenting myself across and bringing my point across, I was on the debate team. So in my junior school days, when all of this started, I was still in the debate team. And debate involves standing in front of the people, arguing your points across, and they're looking at your face. So it meant that I had to take a step back to reevaluate things. And like I said, in countries like Botswana, where I come from, mental health is not a widely recognized topic. Everybody just kind of expected me to get on, you know? And then also in countries like Botswana, where I come from, they would associate what was happening to me like it's a curse. I know I had times where somebody would be like, you are bewitched, you are cursed, you know, you need prayers, and when somebody says that, and we are praying day and night with my family because we are Christians, we are praying, and at the same time we are losing money, we're going from one doctor to the next. It wasn't a pleasant experience. So it meant that I struggled to readjust the new reality into an old reality, until I went into a space where I sat with myself. I sat with myself enough. I read enough books. I brought myself into a space of looking at myself with compassion. And looking at myself with compassion meant I didn't cringe when I looked at myself in the mirror. I came to a point where I could see that there was a life beyond the mirror. And I say the greatest gift I gave myself was looking at myself with compassion and also reassuring myself that I'm doing the best that I can, because I had to keep going to school. I had to keep facing the society. And like I said, I grew up in Africa. Education is your biggest and your strongest point. You either get educated or you become an outcast, you become poor, and you become irrelevant. So that's how it went down.
Yeah, but you also become those things if you have a disability, I feel, in those countries. In India, if you have a disability, you're written off. Oh, you're never going to get married. You're never going to get a job. You're never going to do well in life. Those are the comments that are made. And that point you made about being cursed, I don't know if you got this, but I got this a lot, that, oh, your parents must have sinned. Your parents must have been sinners. And that's why you're being punished with this condition.
Yeah, it's because people associate disability with a curse or witchcraft.
Witchcraft, yeah.
Because I was in Africa, we come from a society that is superstitious. And that society that is superstitious, that means I got it a lot. When people met me with my mother, they would say, you need to do something, you know, you need to find some type of spiritual help. And as much as our family, we are Christians, when somebody says you're not praying enough, yet we are praying, yet we are fasting, we are doing the best that we can, you can just imagine the amount of frustration that landed on us and that landed on my parents. And one of the painful memories that I had, I think this was like the turning point of everything for me. My dad is a strong Black man. And Black men don't show emotions most of the time. So one day my father came, I think he went to the bank, came back to source some money. He had sold some cattle so we could go to a private hospital to see a pediatrician. So I saw my father come in. He said, how are you? I'm good, everything. And he went straight into his bedroom and he just slept with his face facing down. And I think in the next 3 hours, I came into the room again and I've still found him in that same position. And after a while, he woke up and I found that my dad had soaked up. He's been crying, he's been weeping. And In the next few days to come, my mother was diagnosed with hypertension. And then, well, the type of drama that was going on with my health and with their health. And then my father got diagnosed with hypertension too. And I also saw some of my siblings, the way they were. The mood was damp. It wasn't the happy, vibrant family again. And that was the turning point for me. Then I sat down and thought, I'm not in pain. That's an advantage. I still have a lot of things I could count. That's an advantage. And I believe God still loves me. That's an advantage. I still can go back to school and make a name for myself. That's an advantage. And then I realized that if I made this easy for my parents, and I made this easy for me as well, and started dealing with it head on, that means that we could somehow coexist with my new reality. And we've lived in that coexistence until now.
And how old were you when this turning point happened?
It was 3 years after my condition, so I was doing my Form 3. So Form 3 is a very important level in education back home. It's where you proceed to college afterwards. I'm not sure what it's called in the UK. So at that point, I was that age.
So just GCSEs?
Yeah,
before we do our GCSEs, and those grades matter a lot because they determine what college we go to, and that determines the university. So it was a very important point in your life.
It was a very important point in my life because it was a make-up or break-up point.
I want to ask you a really important question here.
Yeah.
And I think one that our listeners can take something away from, and that is, for a young girl listening right now in parts of Africa, India, Pakistan, anywhere in the world for that matter, what would you say to a young girl who has a difference or a disability, who is going through those similar emotions or those similar challenges that you were going through? What would you say to a young girl right now?
I know that it's a path that is very dark. I won't say it's easy because it's not. But one of the most important things that you could give yourself is compassion. Sitting with yourself enough until you know that you matter. There's a message I usually post on Facebook where I say, your breath is evidence that you matter. Your breath is evidence that you exist for a purpose. And to a young girl that is listening to me, or a young man, or anybody listening to me, I'd like to tell them never to underestimate their existence. There is a reason why you're still breathing. There is a reason why you're still on earth at this point. I believe that all of us are brought here for a purpose, and all of us are brought here to fulfill a certain type of task. So I never want you to underestimate your existence, and I never want you to underestimate your purpose. I believe that everything from plants to trees, to the sun, to the ocean, everything serves a purpose. So why wouldn't you serve a purpose? So I'd love them to just understand that because there's a purpose, there's a reason to continue living, thriving, and there's a reason for you to prevail.
That's so beautiful. I think anyone can take that away. I think I'm definitely going to take that away as well. You know, there's a reason, definitely. And sometimes we forget that, and we focus on the negatives a lot. We focus on, oh, why me? Why am I born like this? I look in the mirror and say, God, why am I like this? Why couldn't I have a symmetrical face? But then just to think about that purpose, I think it's really, really powerful. Thank you for sharing that, Gillian. So you had this turning point, 15-year-old turning point, compassion. You're about to embark onto college. Tell me, how was that journey, and what happened when you moved to college, and how did that go?
At that point, when I had my turning point, remember I had my life at school, where I spend most of the time, and I have my life at home and my life into the community, you know? And I remember I thought I have to give myself some type of relevance, because when you are relevant, people are forced to accept you. If you are relevant, It's a way for you to blend into the society, knowing that I'm important. I bring something to the table. So I think the greatest gift that I gave myself at that point was relevance and compassion. Not being too hard on myself. Knowing that the way I'm handling this is the best way it can be done. So giving myself relevance meant that I had to sit with myself until I'm not cringing, so that people around me, if they see that I'm getting comfortable with how I am, they will eventually get to accept that this is me. This is my body. I don't have a chance to switch this face for another one. This is the phase I exist in. You take it or you leave it. But the bottom line is that you need me. Because when you have relevance and people need you, they don't have a choice. It means that they have to coexist with you. So for me, that was school. So I had to bounce back to school, do the best that I can for my grades, be the top achiever in school, be a shining example. And I also made a decision. I made a decision that I won't accept the label that comes with disability or facial difference. That's the label that say you're unfortunate, you are cursed, you won't amount to anything, you won't get married, you won't blend into the society, you cannot be confident. I had a journal. I structured all of this in a journal. I still have that journal even now. So me structuring that, I'm going to make sure that I still show up to the world. And one reason why I decided it was not only for myself, but for my parents. Like I said, when I saw my parents' health just going downhill, I knew it was time to make this as bearable as it can be. I couldn't take away the pain, but I could make it bearable. And I knew that how I show up to the society is going to alter the way they interact with me, the way they see me. So I made sure it happened. I was the best achiever in every school I've been to. And like I said, I was in the Student Representative Council. So being there, I then went to the headmaster and I told the headmaster that I think every Monday I want to give a motivational speech. So remember, I was this person that everybody wants to stare at. I decided I was going to give them a chance to see me. So I went on the podium the first Monday, and the whole school went to a standstill. And then I realized that the more I showed up, the more I didn't hide, the more I equipped myself, they started to be at ease. They started to see that, you know what? I'm human, she's human, I need her. And I could use this motivational Monday for my life too. And then I also did it intentionally to make sure that everybody understood that I had no control over this. This is my face. I live in it. This is my body. I cannot switch this face for another one when I go to give the motivational speech. So you have to face me. Either I scare you or not. You got to face me. You don't have a choice. So I did that. And from there, there was a prize giving ceremony like every year. And it's one of my proudest moments in life. I made sure I owned the prize giving. When it came prize giving, you would clap for me until you get tired. So my parents were proud, my parents were happy, and my parents were kind of relieved that I was becoming someone relevant. I wasn't failing like everybody thought I'm just going to go downhill. And that was how then I went to college to face my next challenge in life. Yeah. And when I got to college, that means I'm introduced to a new group of people, a new cohort from different schools. I remember this so vividly. I walked into the school hall the first time. There was like a meeting, like an orientation for everybody to come, and the dean will start talking and introducing you to different departments. I remember I walked in and the school came to a standstill. And then at that point, I was equipped enough. Another big part of my childhood was reading. I'm such a reader. So I read books that gave me enough empowerment and that gave me enough tools for me to deal with bullying, for me to deal with people staring at me, and for me to stand out. I knew I'm going to stand out. So when I walked into the hall, I knew that was going to happen. So I was ready, and that means I was ready for any people that are aiming to see I'm going to be bullying her, or anyone who's going to say I'm going to take her. I was so ready. So I came in, the whole school came to a standstill, and I remember I walked in and I went to sit right at the front. And then people from my school kind of introduced me to the people. I didn't have to say anything. So everybody just started saying, "Oh, do you know her? She's the best student at our school." And other best students from other schools were like, "Oh, really? How were her grades?" And everybody was like, "Let's see how you get on." So people kind of made conversations on my behalf. And that's when I realized that being relevant pays. Because you are disabled or you have a facial difference, you cannot fold your arms just like that. You must find a place of relevance. Because when you're at a place of relevance, you don't have to introduce yourself. You don't have to even have a label that pulls you down.
Yeah.
I think the biggest mistake that people who are disabled and people who are having facial differences, people in our communities, I think the biggest problem they have is that they shrink.
Yeah. This reminds me of a really interesting story from my experience, and that is that as a child, reflecting now, or even in college as well, I had two choices. I could either sit back in the back of the classroom and sulk and feel sorry for myself, or I could stand up and sit in the front row and say, "This is me." And I'm so thankful that I chose the latter. I chose to sit in the front of that classroom and show up, just like you said. And for our listeners, it's not easy to make that decision to show up. But when you do, with consistency, it's not easy. You're not going to get there the first time you sit down in the front of the class, or the second time, or even maybe the fifth time. But eventually your relevance will show. And that relevance might be anything. For me, it was cricket. For you, it was your education, your intelligence, what you were bringing, your debating. For when we interviewed Oliver, it was, the lovely work he's doing. Everyone has a relevance that they can bring to this world. And it's about figuring out what that relevance is. So it's really great that you did that. And with your story of that first day of induction, you were prepared and people were talking on your behalf. You didn't have to prove anything.
Yeah.
That's really, really interesting. So you started college, and was there any negative experiences in college that you can recall?
Of course, life has to throw you the challenges.
Yeah.
Of course, every stage comes with its own problems, So I get to college, and then at college, this was the part where I was losing the hair. So my condition progressed in stages. So losing the hair meant I couldn't braid it like other girls. There are certain hairstyles that are considered decent for school. And in the school I went to, those were hairstyles that didn't cover the face. Those were hairstyles that didn't drop. Those you had to just do neat cornrows. And then with a patch in my head, tell me how am I going to get the cornrows? So it meant that I couldn't show up the way I'm showing up now. I couldn't wear a wig to school. It means that the little hair that is there, I had to somehow braid it to cover the bald pieces in my head, And that was like the first challenge that I came across, because it meant that every day when I'm having a shower, I'll see some hair falling down. And I'm confronted with the fact that one day all this hair will be gone, And I remember I was walking down a corridor. I had used artificial hair to pretend like it's my hair, and my hairdresser braided it in such a way that it covered this part. This was the part where all the hair fell down. So they braided it in such a way. And then there was this teacher. This teacher was like the least favorite teacher for all the students, because she's the teacher that regulated the hairstyles. And she was the guidance and counseling teacher, and everybody feared her. I remember I saw her and I froze. I said, today's my day. She's going to kill me. And she came, she looked at me. I'll never forget the way she looked at me. She looked at me with so much compassion. And she said, hi. And tears started dropping because I knew that I was going to the disciplinary office. And she said, do you want to come have a cup of tea with me? I said, yeah. She said, no, don't worry. It's not like I'm going to do anything to you. I'm just going to have a chat. So she asked me questions which I didn't have answers for, obviously. Because remember, at this point, I didn't know what the name of my condition was. I could only show you symptoms, you know. I could only lift up my hairstyle and let her examine what's happening to me. And she looked at me with so much compassion. She addressed me with so much love. And she said, whatever is going on, I know this is not easy, but I'm going to write you a note so that nobody bothers you about your hairstyle. If there's anything I can do for you, I'll do it. She told me that my daughter is your age. I don't even want to imagine what's happening in your mother's head. And I don't want to add any type of stresses to your mother. So tell me about you. Who are you? And at that moment, I felt like someone was on my side. And because someone was on my side, I felt a bit of relief. You know, that was like the first week in college. And I felt a bit of relief, as in someone is on my side. And from that point now, I started to realize that as much as you are in a community where most people don't accept you, it's not like everyone is not on your side. It's not like everyone is the enemy. There are going to be people that are on your side, and there are going to be people that are a bit ignorant. They give you bad comments and they give you weird looks. They stare. It's supposed to be like that. But for the most part, I think we must embrace the good parts of our society. We must embrace people like my wonderful teacher. We must embrace the people that give us love. We must modify that experience much more than the negative bits.
So when did you move to UK?
So I had been in and out of the UK for a while. And then right after COVID, I moved here permanently.
Okay.
Yeah. And
so you'd visited England
yeah.
in between as a child?
Yeah. Not as a child, as an adult. Moving to the UK was also another thing. Actually, before that, university was another thing.
Okay, so your university was in Botswana as well?
My university was in Botswana as well.
Okay.
So university involved removing me from the society that I'm used to and taking me to a city 5 hours away.
Okay. So this is the first time you moved away from family?
Yeah. So now I was like out of the nest, out of the covering, out of the warm hands that say you are beautiful. And I was now entering a world of being an adult, a world of where I meet strange people, nice people. But most importantly, I'm in the real world now, you know. I remember the space between college and uni when I started my first business. And so my first business was I had a tutorial service because I'm very intelligent. I knew how to predict an exam. I knew how to give you tips on how to pass. I knew all those things. So I had other children and other parents coming to me saying, please, can you help my child be like you? You know? So it meant that other children will go to their parents and say, there is this girl I admire so much at school. Are you okay to pay £50 so that this girl can be my tutor? There's a group I want to join. The people she's helping are thriving. And then when the parent just sets their eyes on me, they're like, impossible. That's impossible. You're not going there. And that's a piece of discrimination. Those are bits of discrimination where it's very unexpected.
Oh, you can't have tuition from her.
Oh, no. No way. And I will still speak about relevance. When you are relevant, they need you, you know? And when you are relevant, it means that your shoulders are back and your chest is forward and you say, it's your loss, not mine, you know? As much as there are parts of you that will say, but this is not fair. this is not fair. Why should they judge me based on how I look? You know, there are parts of me that said that. And when I revisited my journal, I then remembered that I have to look at myself with compassion. This is I'm in the best state that I can be for someone going through this.
Yeah.
I'm handling this the best way that I can. I don't think anybody could do this better than me. I used to say that. I still say that even now. And I would say, I am relevant. I am relevant in this stage. If they are coming to class, they are. If they are not, that's their loss. But I am who I am, and I don't have the privilege of exchanging this face for a different one. This is me, you know? And after like 2 months, and then I started seeing some of those parents coming back to say, you know, because we were just wondering if our child would be comfortable around you. As a parent, you kind of protect your child, you know? And I remember I had a conversation with one parent. Then when I told her my journey, I told her that 1 minute I slept okay. The next minute I had a ringworm. Next week my eye was caving in. The following week my face was atrophying to the life at a very high rate. This could be anyone, really. I don't believe it's a curse or anything. I believe that in a society, you are going to have disabled people. You're going to have people with facial differences. You're going to have people that are educated, that are not educated. You're going to have, just like you have fat and thin people, it's a variation in the society. This just happens to be me carrying that image of somebody who is different. And if you're going to protect your child against somebody like me, in 2 years' time, your child is going to face the real world. And in the marketplace, it's a competition. It's a fight. If you're raising a weak child, a child who is not kind to other people, you're not doing justice to your child. And I remember that woman was like, thank you. I didn't realize I was being ignorant. And we're still good friends. When she sees me on Facebook, she's like, hello, my daughter. And she always says, you taught me a very important lesson.
It's like, so we're all different.
Yeah.
And I say this in a lot of talks that I do,
Yeah.
that if everyone was the same, the world would be a boring place, wouldn't it? You know, if everyone looked the same, if everyone had the same hobbies, interests, likes, the world would be very boring. The fact that we are different, the fact that we have different hobbies, likes, interests, the fact that we all look different is what needs to be celebrated in this world. Just taking a couple of minutes away from this interview, I have to thank Tyler Grange for supporting me in making my dream a reality. For me, this is not a podcast, it's a movement. It's my way of helping you with my lived experience, with the lived experience of my guests. Tyler Grange has been a sponsor for this series, and none of this would have been possible without them. So Tyler Grange, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for making this a reality. Back to the interview. So after university, Gillian, you moved to England?
After university, I had like a moment of closure, a moment of realization again. So in university, I went there to study sciences, biological sciences. And then I had a moment of turnaround where I went into finance. So after university, I had my other business. So I was in the fashion industry. I dared to enter an industry that people thought I didn't deserve to be in. So at that point, I had my shop. So in my shop, I was selling clothing for women, styling some people, and that means I have to meet buyers. I have to interact with people coming for services, and that means I have to be presentable myself. Because if I'm going to talk about beauty, it means I have to dare to believe that I represent beauty in the best way possible, you know? So I talk about the moment where I had a shop in Botswana because it was a very important moment. It was a part of my life where I'm learning to get into the real society, real people. And it's a very different thing to be in school. And it's a very different thing to be out in the society where you're interacting with buyers in the marketplace, you're interacting with spenders, you're interacting with consumers, and you're interacting with suppliers, you know? So the biggest challenge that I had in running my shop was the interaction between me and the suppliers. So here I am, I'm this young girl with a facial difference, and I am walking into a different country. I used to go to Johannesburg, South Africa. So I'm walking into a different country, a different town, a town as big and dangerous as Johannesburg. And I'm there to negotiate in the marketplace, to negotiate my place, to negotiate to get fair prices and all that, you know. And like you said, showing up needs consistency. I remember very well my first experience of going to Johannesburg. So because it's considered a dangerous town by people warned me not to go there. But I said, if people are going there, I surely can go there too, you know? So I went there, and I remember from the minute I got into the bus, I had people in the bus whispering, of course. And to the minute I arrived at a place called Park Station, I had people staring in all directions. You know, I had people staring in all directions. And I'll always talk about my experience of being empowered mentally, the mental transformation I had with reading books, with journaling, with affirming myself. And the minute people are staring, it's a minute where I recognize that they are seeing something out of the ordinary. They are seeing something extraordinary, and that whatever they're seeing is different from what they know. And therefore, they have to look. If something that is extraordinary has to be presented in my presence right now, I am going to look. Not because I hate, not because I cringe when I look at it or anything. It's just nature for me to react that way. So because I had adopted that attitude, I had to carry it back inside me. I had to carry it into the supplier's office to come negotiate who I am. And so that I give them a chance to just say, I look different, but I'm here with a case. I'm here with a business case. And that experience on its own of me being a bit forceful, I carried it now into the boardroom, where I went into working in capital markets. So working into capital markets, I worked there as a business developer, firstly in Botswana and then in South Africa. So now I'm presented as a young woman in an industry that is male-dominated, in an industry that is only for a few people. And it means that I have to now come in, be aggressive as to presenting myself that I'm relevant. I have this, I got this. Just from the interview itself, to the boardroom itself, to now being at a place where I was relevant as a country director at some point. And I realized that my interactions with people reflected what I said about myself, reflected what I say to myself in my secret place. And my interactions with people were just simply a reflection of who I was.
I just want to take the listeners onto a highlight here, because it's really interesting. You've gone from this young girl who's 12 years old, who's suddenly realizing that her facial structure is changing, to that moment where you realize about compassion because your father, your mother were feeling ill, your family's finances were being detrimented because of your condition, your siblings were all confused, the atmosphere at home was very subdued, to now being in South Africa as a country director in an industry which you rightly said is very male dominated, nevertheless that it is not dominated or has any existence of anyone with a visible difference. But now you've done that pain to purpose journey already is there definitely. And I'm absolutely taken away by the journey you've been on. And I've already learned so much, Gillian, from you. And I've taken so much from you about this will, this power, this attitude that, you know what, I'm going to do this regardless of what people think about the way I look. I'm going to do this because it doesn't matter, because who cares?
Exactly.
Who cares what people think, you know? Yeah. And you proved it. You know, it's no little small feat. It's an incredible achievement. So tell me, country director, finances, please.
So my journey, I started at the bottom. I didn't simply just walk in and became a director. Of course. So from the minute where I have an interview, I'm interviewing for like a junior business developer. Yeah. There are other people there. People that are perfect in every way. You could say that. Perfect in every way, you know, according to a standard. Normal. The way they call it.
What is normal?
Exactly.
So every week at the end of the interview, Gillian, our guest will ask a question to the next guest. The surprise element is they don't know who that next guest will be. So the question that was asked by our last guest, Karishma, was, if you were deserted in an island, what is that one thing that you'd like to have with you?
If I were deserted in an island, the one thing that I'd like to have with me is my mind. I'll be carrying it in my head at that time.
That's such a good answer. That really is.
It's certainly because I attribute everything to the power of the mind. Mental strength will either kill you or make you. So with myself, I attribute my life story to mental strength. So I'll be having my mind to shape the attitude of the people that I interact with, to shape my own attitude. I'll be having my mind to create answers, and I'll be having my mind to rewire my surrounding. And I'll have my mind to take myself out of the deserted island.
You'll put your mind to work and find a way to get out of that deserted island.
So my question for the next guest is that if they were given a position of power where they could make decisions on policies, what policy would they make for people with visible differences and people living with disability?
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And finally, I wrote a book a few months ago. It's called Born Different. The book for me is a movement. It's a message that I would have liked to give myself when I was a young child. It talks about the challenges that I faced when I was in school and how I overcame those challenges. I like to gift every single guest that comes to my podcast as a thank you this book signed. So here is a copy for you. I hope you enjoy reading this book. And Gillian, finally, just thank you so much for being here today and being you. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and for our listeners, I'm sure they did too. Is there anything you'd like to say as a closing?
I'd like to thank you for this beautiful opportunity, and I'd like just to thank you listeners, to thank the entire community of people that are cheering us up and that are behind us, and all that support matters. I like to elevate the cheers and the celebration than the bullying and the bad comments. And we see you. We appreciate you. You make this easier for us as we go online to impact lives.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Gillian. Viewers, until next time, take care. Friends, as you know, I have rebranded my YouTube channel. I've rebranded with this unscripted episodes that I put out, weekly episodes of some incredible guests who come in and share their story, raw and unfiltered. But I cannot do this without your support. And all I need you to do is just hit that subscribe button and show your support. Hitting that subscribe button is your small donation to keep me and my team going, so we can bring you great guests every week. Thank you so much for everything you do for me.